Welcome to TAO-Living, the Art of Living podcast with your host, Corleto, where you will be supported to remember that you are the driver and not the vehicle, so that you can walk your life in trust. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this episode of the TAO-Living podcast, the Art of Living. And today I have a great opportunity to reconnect with an old friend, Dr. Burt. Aaron graduated in 1996, went to Spain and had one of the most successful practices for many, many decades. He also taught philosophy at the Barcelona College of Chiropractic. Then he decided to reinvent himself, sold it all, moved to the west coast of the Pacific side of Panama, where he has reinvented himself. And as he says, he focuses on the three things that he loves the most: surfing, living a balanced lifestyle, helping people tap into their greatness and express it into the world, right? And that's why he's on the show right now, because that's the essence of the art of living, the TAO-Living, which is to bring out your greatness and live it out into the world. So brother, thank you for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to unpack some newness. So Aaron, we were talking before we went live. The thing you're most passionate about right now is what you call the HELM, right? The Hemispheric Life Mastery.
Yes, sir.
So unpack that. Give us a whatever it is, a 30,000 foot view, and then we'll get into some details.
Let's unpack that. Let me get somebody to help me put that luggage on the table. Hemispheric Life Mastery for me is the culmination of my lifetime of work. Hemispheric Life Mastery is helping people to understand that the most powerful tool in the universe is inside of this little bone cabinet that we have up here. And this is the human brain. And it's really about understanding how our brain developed from our childhood on, how we harness the power of our brain in the beginning, which was just to survive and make it through, where that's taken us to, what strength it's created, what superhero strengths I call it, but also what weaknesses it created. Everybody knows Superman has got kryptonite. So when we can understand the power of both hemispheres, when we can understand how one dominant hemisphere has affected our life for the last 30, 40, or 50 years, and we can tap in to the magic, the mystery, the beauty, the wonder in our weaker hemisphere, we can bring those together. And what that allows us to create in our lives is nothing short of magic.
Beautiful. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've heard the concept that we use less than 10% of the possibility of what's inside that cranium, right? And the concept that it takes a nanosecond to get information around the world, email with today's technology, but it takes 30 years to get a thought through a quarter-inch of skull, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, wherever you're at in your life, if whatever level of success and achievement you've had, you're working partial, right? Half. When we get into hemispheric dominance and be able to access the full capacity, what's possible? Yeah. So what drove you in this direction, and then how do you utilize it now with clients and students?
Okay, what drove me into this direction was, basically my own life. When I started looking at where I was, I was extremely successful as a chiropractor, yet I was very unhappy. And, and a side note, I'm sure we'll wrap around to it. This is how I got, I had met you at a conference in Barcelona with two of my favorite all-time chiropractors. I know they're both looking at me watching this podcast, Sue Brown and Tobias Goncharov. And I met you at this conference. And then later on in life, I was struggling and I reached out to you. And you gave me some words of advice that I carry on to this day. And in that moment, when I was going through those struggles, at the end of a second marriage, just unhappy in life, I was actually running this amazing program that I had created, working with kids with ADD, ADHD, neurodivergency, because I'm neurodivergent and I've been neurodivergent since I was a child. And I never understood a lot of the things that were going on in my brain. I never understood how's it possible, that I can see 850 clients in a week, remember everything, be spot on, fabulous adjustments, yet I can't remember the grocery list that my wife had given me for things to bring home. And so I would get home with a bottle of wine and a dozen roses, and she would be mad because she wanted a quart of milk and a dozen eggs. And then her getting upset would just break me down. I mean, I would want to die. And I did not realize at the time that it was my neurodivergency in my brain. So as I started making changes in my life, I decided to really make a huge life shift. And I had the opportunity to really dive in and study with some of the leading coaches in the world. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with one of the world's leading business coaches. This man was the business coach of the CEO of Pfizer during pandemic. And I got to start seeing how his brain functioned. And I started seeing his brain strength. And then I was in his personal life because I was living near this guy. And I started seeing, wow, I've got a lot of really great stuff going on. And I'm idolizing stuff that he's got going on and they're coming from the other side of his brain. And yet he's looking at me and he's idolizing the stuff that I have. And that was really what started kind of clicking it together, saying, wait a minute, there's a lot here that needs to be unpacked. What's going on? And so I started using some of these brain stimulation protocols that I'd been using with children and adolescents, and then packaging it into kind of a life mentoring coaching program so that we could start harnessing the power of our brain. And the results were extraordinary. And it was through that all of this started coming to fruition.
Beautiful. So how do you come across to somebody who, let's see, very similar to, when I'm talking about breath with people are like, well, I know how to breathe. I'm like, no, you have respiration, but you're not consciously breathing, right? So they just don't know that they don't know, just like I didn't, right? So when you're conversing with somebody who thinks they're using their brain, right, and they're only using a portion of it, first of all, how do you bridge that gap to let them know that not so much, and then to show them what's possible, and then what are the steps to start activating more of this neurological capacity?
Well, the first thing we do, just in the conversation, I've been blessed to see over 500,000 clients in my career. And as a clinician that we start to see patterns. And so you can just watch someone how they breathe, and because breathing and conscious languaging for you, which is something that I learned that from listening to you. It's beautiful, and you're a master at this stuff, and you just see it right away. And so when I'm just in a conversation with somebody, I can hear where they are, what they're going through, and I can tell pretty much right off the bat what is their dominant hemisphere. And it's usually so many people that have got this masculine, left dominant, technological, numbers-based, numbers-driven. And so immediately I'm going to start asking them questions about areas in their life that are more in balance with the strong right hemisphere. I'm going to ask them about how much time they spend in nature. I'm going to ask them about their arts. I'm going to ask them about music preferences. I'm going to ask them about balances in their relationship, how this is going. These are questions that really, really provoke thoughts of, what's going on this right side, because these are right side controlled activities, although we do use both sides. And the same thing when I speak with someone and I can detect right away that they've got a very strong right hemisphere, like I have, I'm going to go in and start asking these questions about, well, let's see what's going on the left side. What's your morning routine? Morning routine. Yeah. What's your bedroom look like? Are you making the bed? Are you writing out lists? Are you doing these things? How's your checking account? How's your finances? So now all of this I finally put together in what's called the Brain Strength Master Checklist, because, I don't like, hemispheric dominance. I don't want to dominate anything. And what we try to teach people is that brain strength is what we're looking at. You've got a really strong right hemisphere or a really strong left hemisphere. So with the brain strength, the brain strength master checklist, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where our dominance is, where our strength is, as it's a better word. And then we realize, okay, I've got a very, very strong left brain. Well, I'm going to work and I'm going to do things to strengthen the other side of my brain. And when I'm working with my clients, we dive really deep into this, really deep in this. Just to give you an idea, I'm working with a doctor out of Norway, extremely successful doctor. And yet, he's got some blocks going on. And today he sent me the most amazing video that they called him from the office, and they were just, oh, you got to come in early. But today was his day for his wife to do something on her time and for him to take care of the kids. And in the past, not understanding his brain dominance, he would have gone in and done that and just paid the nanny, just do that left brain stuff. And he sent me a video from the top of a mountain on his mountain bike. And he said, Dr. Aaron, I just want to let you know that I called the office, I canceled everything, and I did what was important for me. I'm on my mountain bike on a mountaintop. I'm about to ride down and spend the rest of the day with my girls. He said, those patients, I can see them tomorrow. That's a brain shift. That's a brain shift. And these are the types of things, Lou, that bring a state of balance into us that we cannot imagine. We cannot imagine, imagine just the feeling of those little girls seeing dad come back. Imagine how that's going to impact his relationship. Imagine how that's going to impact his office, because if I'm a client in that office and this very strict, serious doctor says, no, I can't come in tomorrow. And I come in tomorrow and I'm going to ask him, anything happen? Are you okay? No, I needed to take care of my girls. I want to be more with that guy. I want to be more with that guy. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So this is the type of thing we look at, and this is the type of thing that we help people find this balance so that they can bring their beauty, their joy, their greatness, and everything that's inside of them out into the world.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That reminds me of when I started the work that I was doing years ago in my reinvention. And the place where what drives most humans, right, is our identity. The greatest force, in the human psychology is the identity. And my identity, well, this is who I am. No, it's not. It's just how you're showing up. And it's because of patterns, as Aaron already mentioned about patterns. Well, when we run those long enough, we start to believe, well, this is who I am. No, it's just how you're showing up. Mm-hmm. And that can all be changed, as Aaron just described, when you start accessing different parts of what's there that's lying dormant. Then it opens up new worlds of being, right? And if that's from being less structured to more structured, from being less creative to more creative, right? Whatever that dance is, it starts to change. And when it changes, that now changes who you be and how you're showing up, which changes everything, right? The relationships with this guy's girls, the relationship with his clients, because he's now changed. Yeah. And that's possible for all of us, right? So ladies and gentlemen, when you're listening, remember, right? Whatever's going on in your life, good, bad, right, or wrong, it's all part of patterns. And that's not who you are. That's just how you're showing up. And we can all upgrade that, right? And this is a powerful way to do that through Aaron's work.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's really about the stories that we tell and how we're telling those stories. One of the things through this work, Lou, that I started to understand, 15 years ago, I did a postgraduate course with, for me, probably top specialist in the world of helping children and adolescents with neurodivergency, ADD, ADHD. This is Dr. Robert Melillo out of New York. And he created brain balance centers in the United States. They've got 250 centers. And so I had the opportunity to do my postgraduate studies with Dr. Melillo. I actually helped him translate a book into Spanish, and really studying by his side, I started understanding brain function. And he told us about a study that was done. And when he told me about it 15 years ago, it really didn't click like it clicks now. And it was called the ACEs study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. And they determined that the more adverse childhood experiences someone had, the higher the predictability of neurodivergency in that child. And as I started, kind of playing in this world and looking in this world and looking at my life and the people around me, all of us have gone through some type of perceived trauma, all of us. And what I discovered, Lou, is that, depending on when we went through that childhood trauma, that's going to affect the function of our brain for the rest of our lives. So for example, without getting into details, I went through serious childhood trauma at about the age of 3.5 to 4. So for people who don't know a little bit about brain function and neurology, our brain develops one side then the other. Its lateral development goes back and forth. So from 0 to 3, it's the right side of my brain that's developing. It's get the big picture of the world around you. It's basic posture, standing up, walking. It's protective emotions. It has to do with smell and taste. It's nonverbal communication. It's all of these things that a little kid needs from 0 to 3. Then from 3 to 6, the brain shifts and develops in the left hemisphere, the left frontal cortex. And this is, exciting new things. And this is math. And this is fine motor skills. And this is to-do lists. This is all left brain. So in my case, 3.5, 4 years old, I go through this pretty serious childhood trauma. So immediately, the left side of my brain that's just beginning to develop shuts down. And the reason it shuts down is because this 4-year-old kid has to create a story about why this is happening in his life. My basic needs are met. I don't have to worry about that. I'm just trying to figure out why is this person who apparently loves me and is here to protect me is not doing that, is doing something quite the opposite of that. So my right brain goes into hyper-development mode and starts creating the story. And here I am at 45 years old, extremely successful, and yet my right brain tells stories and stories and stories and stories, and my left brain can't kick in to get the to-do list done so that I have balance. Conversely, I have clients who they went through trauma at a very early age in life. A client of mine the other day spoke to me about the death of his mother before he was young, 6, 7 months old, and his mother passed. So this young man, 6, 7 months old, the right side is developing, his primary caregiver is gone. Immediately, the left side of his brain has to activate. Immediately. Subconsciously, what do I need to be doing to survive? Mm-hmm. And now he has a very strong dominant left brain. So this is what happens, and this goes on with us for life. And what I discovered was that I can change the story about that event. I can't change the event, but I can change the story. I mean, you and I know many of the greatest lessons we ever learned were from really difficult situations. And, when that situation was going on, I would be looking at the situation, hating that person, hating that situation, God, strike them down with lightning. And now here I'm at 55. I'm like, wow, thank you. I could, what do I owe you? What's a master's degree in relationships worth? Should I send you a check for $250,000? Because I learned so much from that. And we can change that story. And so
100%.
what we do is really help people understand how to change that story.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that's, I share for years with people is that basic concept of the equation T equals, thoughts, feelings, actions, results, right? And yet right at the time the thought's happening, we give meaning to something. So what Aaron just talked about is welcome to the planet. We've all had experiences. If you see them as traumatic or not, they've impacted us, right? What we've done with them is one thing. What's really important is what meaning we gave it, right? So if this interaction, then you made up a story that you're not worthy, and that runs in your life, right? It's back to who I am. Well, unconsciously, it's running, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, I'm unsuccessful, or I'm not that smart. Whatever the story is, that's the meaning we gave it. We can change that meaning at any time, right? And we can upgrade and rewrite the story because it is your script, right? Are you writing it or is somebody else? Either way, once it's written, we live it out.
Yes,
and
sir.
The gift that Aaron's bringing to his people with his work is helping to rewrite the script and neurologically come back online, right? To bring the balance, because that's the master control system. Beautiful, sir. Great work. And the stories I've heard from you and your clients that are, the upgrades and how quick it happens. That's the beautiful part, right? It doesn't take 30 years of talk therapy, right? This can happen rapidly. And it's not an effect. It's transformational, meaning, it's not rah-rah. It's like, oh, I feel better. No, this is fundamental changing because you're upgrading your neurology, which then changes behavior, actions, states of being, new life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was lucky to study with some amazing teachers, and there was one teacher that I worked with, and we studied Gestalt psychotherapy. And this man, he made a comment to me. He said the difference between psychiatry, psychology, and therapy. And he said, basically, we're all inside of a pool of shit. And this is what he told me. He said, the psychiatrist is going to give you pills so you just don't even remember that you're there. He said, the psychologist is going to help you find out who's shit in that pool and when. He said my job as a therapist is to help you find the quickest way out. And thinking about that, finally, a couple of years later, I saw him again and I said, yeah, I still remember that comment. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I realize that my job's something different. He said, what's that? And I said, my job is help people tell the story that pool is actually full of crystal clear mineral water. Change your story. Just change your story. You're the one that's picking to tell the story what the pool's full of.
Beautiful. Yeah, right back to giving meaning. So the stuff that happened to me is bad and yucky, or it's nutrients for my growth and evolution.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'd love to share this story with you quickly. One of the things that really changed my life, I was in my 20s when I discovered my childhood trauma, and I studied, and it was one of the things that led me into therapy and led me into a lot of the things I really got to learn a lot about. And about 3 years ago, I was working with my wife, who is an amazing healer. She is a healer on a different level. And we were doing some visualization work, deep work, and I had a transient out-of-body experience. And I literally felt myself out of my body on almost an astral plane. And I saw a light coming towards me, just like I'm sitting here looking at this screen, talking to you. This beautiful golden light started coming to me. And as I looked at it, there was no harm, it was pure love. I saw the face of this person, and this person is long since deceased. I saw their face, and this person was looking at me. And all I felt was radiant love towards this person. And I called out to this person, and I apologized And she asked me, why are you apologizing? And I told him, I said, I've told this story of what happened between us to so many people, and I don't think I should have done that. And we'll say she said to me, look at the lives you've changed. And she made this gesture out, and I saw thousands and thousands of lights, like candles on a beach on New Year's Eve. And it were all of the souls that had been touched by my story. And I realized, Lou, that in my clinic in Spain, even outside of Spain, I had told that story to a lot of people when I felt that they were stuck in their life. And I would open up to them about my trauma. And I had people talk about rape, abuse, violence for the first time in their lives. They felt safe enough that they could express their pain.
Mm.
And I saw that. I was like, wow, I got to have that impact. And she said, yes. And I looked back at her and I said, yeah, but I'm sorry. I'm still sorry. And she said, why? And I said, because in this story, you're always the bad one. And Lou, this being looked at me and told me a phrase that changed my life and my belief systems forever. She said, Aaron, I know. I took that role. I signed up for it. And I said, you did what? And she said, son, before you incarnated into this physical form, your soul family was gathered celebrating what your life would be. And we knew the impact that you were going to have on the world. And we knew the healing that you were going to bring to the world. And we saw the light and the experience and the growth that you were going to be able to provide. But we also knew that that trauma had to happen for all of that to be put into play. And she said, I love you so much on the soul level that I immediately stood up and said, that's the role I want.
Mm.
And I was like, wow.
Beautiful.
And later I found out a little bit more about this person's life and what they went through. Wow. And I was like, you went through all of that to get to me so that I could have an experience and transform it into love, light, and healing? Wow, that's a level of love that I can't even begin to understand. And that transformed everything for me about how we really can use the power of our mind and change completely our life story.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you for sharing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're willing to, however that story lands for you, his experience, but his story, if you're willing to embrace the possibility of that the people that showed up in your life and that delivered if you're on the other side of it, you would call it a gift. If you're not on the other side of it, you still call it a trauma. Mm-hmm. And when you still see it as yucky, then as I did, right, then I'm still in victim mode. This bad thing happened to me. And then I'm going to keep replaying that. And as I keep replaying that, I create neurochemistry and all that stuff that breaks my body down because I'm not healing. I'm reliving the story and the trauma. When I'm willing to actually do the work and experience what that act was given to me for, and at a spiritual level, the person who signed up to bring that into my life, right? On the other side, then I can have gratitude. When I'm not on the other side, then I have anger and hatred for the person, right? Which I had for sure before I did the work. And so that's what's possible for all of us, right? That's what Aaron's laying out there is if you're willing to see it differently and then do the work, the transformation that's possible for you is profound. And then because what happens when we shift is a complete cellular change. The cells change because the story changes, because healing happens and forgiveness happens at deep level. And then new worlds open up, like unlimited new worlds open up. So that's what this man is offering. Highly recommend that you reach out to him, tap into his world. He's in the process of having his brand new website, so you can have access to content and all, And that's coming online soon. So, Aaron, in the meantime, how are people? How should we send them to get connected to you?
People can come to my Instagram account, which is Dr. underscore Aaron underscore Burt. I'll send that to you.
Yeah, we'll have this in
And
the show notes, by the way.
yeah,
So it'll be a hyperlink in the show notes.
yeah, and I'm actually going to send you my direct email. I was blessed that a couple of months ago, a social media marketing company out of Madrid, a prominent company, one of the founders of that company did some work with me, and he's like, "Wow, this is amazing stuff. We really want to back you and help you, support you in your efforts of getting your message out." So they came in and kind of broke down my website, and they're creating something new. So this content, the the studio I'm in now, all of these new things. So, like I said, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, the new website will be launched. But for now, people they can come to my Instagram account, and I'll also give them a link to my personal email. My mission is one soul at a time, one soul at a time. So if this resonates with anyone, write to me. I'm going to answer you.
Beautiful. And in closing thoughts, brother.
Yeah, actually, I would like to close just with a little story about why I'm here, and it has to do with you, Lou. And so I was at a really tough moment in my life. From the outside world, everything seemed perfect. I was at a high volume clinic, married to a great woman. My kids were healthy, but on the inside, I was dying. I was extremely unhappy, extremely unhappy. I knew my life needed to be so much more. It could be so much more. And so I called my dear friend, Dr. Tobias Goncharov, an amazing chiropractor that was based in Barcelona. And he was a mentor to me, and I just kind of told him where I was. And I said, "I'm just lost, man." And he said, "You need to call Lou. You need to call Lou." And I was like, "Why?" He said, "Just call Lou." And I made a call. I called you. This was, wow, 15 years ago, Lou.
Yeah.
And I called you up. I kind of told you what was going on. And then you asked me a question that I'll never forget. And this is the first time you're going to hear this, because this question that you asked me impacted me so much. It's actually part of a program that I offer now to my clients. And so you asked me, you said, "Aaron, what are you passionate about in life?" And I said, "Well, I'm passionate about chiropractic." And you were like, "Bullshit, that's your job. What are you passionate about?" Because anyone who knows you and has worked with you knows that you go straight to the chase. You don't beat around the bush. Lou goes in. And you said, "What are you passionate about?" And I said, "I'm passionate about my family." You're like, "Bullshit, that's your family." And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And you said, "Wow, here you are, you're 44 years old, 40, I think I was 44 at that time. You got all this money, you got all this success. You have no idea what makes you happy." And I was just at a daze, and you gave me an exercise. And you said, you have won this trip to go anywhere in the world, to do anything you want. You're going to go for 2 weeks. It's got to be something that you love. It's got to be an activity, something you enjoy, and you're going with something world-class in that. Where are you going? Who are you going with? And it hit me immediately. It said, "I'm going to Indonesia to go surfing with Kelly Slater." And you said to me, "That's your passion. Get surfing into your life." And I was like, "Well, I live 3 hours from the ocean." You said, "It doesn't matter. Videos, magazines, whatever." And that was a pivotal change in my life. And here I am, 11 years later, sitting on a beach overlooking one of the most beautiful waves in the Pacific Ocean. And it's funny because one of the programs that I offer is called Radical Reset. And I do this exercise. And when the person comes up with, "Oh, I've always wanted to be a pasta chef," I give them the option that we go together to wherever they want to go. And we find that professional. And for a week, I don't want to be a pasta chef, but for a week, we do Hemispheric Life Mastery, and they learn how to be that pasta chef. Or they learn how to, skydive with Lou, or they learn how to surf, whatever it is. So that was born and created out of that conversation that I had with you over 11 years ago. So from the bottom of my heart, in person, I thank you for that could have been the 45 of the most important minutes of my life. So thank you very much.
Honor and a privilege, brother, always. And thank you for sharing that. The ladies and gentlemen, what I'd really like you to take away, though, was Aaron didn't just hear the question and go, okay, whatever. He put it into action and did the work. That's what's changed his life, right? And so when you reach out to him, he's going to help you get clear on what's up. And then it's your job to put it into action with his guidance and support. So reach out to this man. We'll have his email and his Instagram account in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Art of Living, the TAO-Living podcast. And Aaron, thank you for who you be, brother. Thank you for sharing your wisdom on the call today. And keep setting the people free.
Thank you, Maestro.
To connect further and dive deeper, you can always reach me at my website, loucorleto.com, LOUCORLETO, or in the social channels, Facebook, loucorleto.official, Instagram, Lou_Corleto, Twitter, Lou_Corleto, and LinkedIn. Until next time, remember who you be. Abundant blessings.